In a narrative that was published in the 1995 book, A Second Helping of Chicken Soup for the Soul, titled The Circus, Dan Clark, a professional motivational speaker, author, and the CEO of Clark's Success System, shares a very personal incident that epitomizes care. He recalled how, as a teenager, his father and he were standing in the line to buy tickets for a circus, and finally, there was just one family between them and the ticket counter. Now, this family consisted of 8 children, all probably under the age of 12. By their appearance, they looked like they didn't have a lot of money. Their clothes were not expensive, but they were clean. The children were well behaved, all of them standing in line, 2 by 2 behind the parents holding hands. They were excitedly jabbering about the clowns, the elephants, and the other acts that they would be seeing that night. One could sense that they had never been to the circus before. The father and mother were at the head of the pack, standing proud as they could be. The mother was holding her husband's hand, looking up at him as if to say, "You are my knight in the shining armor." He was smiling and basking in pride, looking at her as if to reply, "You got it right." The ticket lady asked the father of the 8 children how many tickets he wanted. He proudly responded, 8 children's tickets and 2 adult tickets. The ticket lady immediately quoted the price. The man's wife let go of his hand. Her head dropped. The man's lip began to quiver. The father leaned a little closer and asked again, "How much did you say?" And the ticket lady again quoted the price. The man didn't have enough money. How was he supposed to turn and tell his 8 kids that they didn't have enough money to take them to the circus? Seeing what was going on, Dan Clark remembers how his father put his hand into the pocket, pulled out a $20 bill and dropped it on the ground, despite they not being wealthy in any sense of the word. He said his father reached down, picked up the $20 bill, tapped the man on the shoulder and said, "Excuse me, sir, this fell off from your pocket." The man knew exactly what was going on. He wasn't begging for a handout, but certainly appreciated the help in this desperate, heartbreaking, embarrassing situation. And according to the author, the man looked straight into the father's eyes, held his father's hand in both his, squeezed tightly onto the $20 bill, and with his lip quivering and a tear streaming down his cheek, he replied, "Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir." Dan Clark recalled how his father and he went back to the car and drove home. Although they didn't get to see the circus that night, the father and son felt a joy within that was far greater than the circus could ever have provided. Friends, according to Margaret Mead, an American cultural anthropologist, helping someone else through difficulty is where civilization starts. Years ago, the anthropologist Margaret Mead was asked by a student what she considered to be the first signs of civilization in a culture. The students expected Mead to talk about clay pots, tools for hunting, grinding stones, or probably religious artifacts. But no, Mead said that the first evidence of civilization was a 15,000 years old fractured femur found at an archaeological site. Now, a femur is the longest bone in the human body, linking the hip to the knee. And in societies without the benefit of modern medicine, it takes about 6 weeks of rest for a fractured femur to heal. And this particular bone had been broken and had been healed years back. Now, Mead explained that in the animal kingdom, if you break your leg, you die. You cannot run from danger. You cannot drink or hunt for food. Wounded in this way, you are meat for the predators. No creature survives a broken leg long enough for the bone to heal. You are eaten first. Now, a broken femur that has healed is evidence that another person has taken time to stay with the fallen, has bound up his wounds, has carried the person to safety, and has tended them through recovery. A healed femur indicates that someone has helped a fellow human rather than abandoning them to save their own life. In today's society, it often seems as though Being cold towards others is shown as being strong, and showing feelings and emotions is equivalent to being weak, especially for men. It has almost become a badge of honor to say you don't need someone. We all find ourselves going through a tough time every now and then. Maybe you have lost a job or ended a relationship. Maybe you have got sick, or maybe you have even lost someone you care about. Regardless of how big or small your challenge is, it is hugely helpful to have people you are close to in your corner. Friends, too often we underestimate the power of a touch, a smile, a kind word, a listening ear, an honest compliment, or the smallest act of caring, all of which have the potential to turn a life around. The Golden Gate Bridge is a majestic attraction and an iconic landmark in San Francisco, and it's also the world's leading suicide location. There was a forensic psychologist for the San Francisco Police Department by name Dr. Jerome Moto. He did an interview in the New York Magazine, and he spoke about his forensic work that he would do when people would jump the Golden Gate Bridge. He had to prove that there was no foul play and had to retrace the steps and prove that they were in a frame of mind when they wanted to take their own life. He would go to the background and see what really happened just before they jumped off the bridge. He said he saw so many suicides that he had actually become numb to it. But there was one story that shook him deep to his core. He said one night they had found a jumper who had jumped from the Golden Gate Bridge to his death. He says, I went to this guy's apartment afterwards with my assistant medical examiner. The guy was in his 30s. He lived alone. He had a pretty bare apartment, but he had written a note and left it on his dressing table. And it said, I'm going to walk to the bridge. If one person smiles at me on the way or just says hello, I'm turning around and coming home. Do not underestimate the fact that you can be that person for someone else. You can be the one who cares. Remember, for the world, you might be one person, but to the one person, you might be their entire world. Never underestimate the power of a good word, a caring letter, or a smile on your face. It's not enough to refrain from speaking negatively. Use your words to invigorate someone with positivity. Friends, I once heard a statement, if we do not have an ideal we are willing to die for, we have nothing very meaningful to live for. I now understand that the strongest and the deepest foundation that could create stability and integrity in any situation in this world, and the highest ideal, is love and care for others. Just unmotivated, unconditional love and care.